Let's give this poor lonely wildflower a new home on a journal page, and let's try out some techniques with distress embossing glaze. Hi there, this is Luise Heinzel. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this video. I have the 12 new colors of embossing glaze by Tim Holtz and Ranger on my desk here. And if you remember my last video, you know that we had this little wildflower left over from the other project. And today I want to create something with this. In this journal here, if you're new to my channel or if you have missed my past videos, then you might have missed how I made this journal here out of a bubble wrap envelope. I will link a playlist down below this video where you can find the video how I made this journal. And you can also find all of the videos about embossing glaze techniques in that playlist. That's everything that I will do in this journal. So this journal is all about embossing glaze techniques, and I want to show you different ideas what you can do with this cool medium. In the last video we have made this page here, and this is what we had left over because we've cut this out from here. No, it's gone. It's disappeared. Oh my goodness. That is so funny. Yeah, and I thought we can use this flower and use it as a focal point on a new page in this journal. There's one thing that I would like to mention before I start. I have made two signatures in this journal. One is for you as my English-speaking community, so that is this here. And the other signature is for the German-speaking community. You know, I always need two videos. So that means if you want to see a variation of the same idea, meaning a variation of this, you can also watch the German video. Yeah, you can see this is very different in, you know, color-wise, and also, you know, the whole design is different, but the idea and the technique behind is the same. So if you want to see a variation, you can always watch the German video as well if you want. And I think you can follow along that video even if you don't understand what I'm saying there, because you've already heard it in the English video, if that makes sense. So today I want to work on the next page here. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to change the color of this flower. That seems a little bit weird because this is really beautiful. But I want to change it because on the one hand, I want to show you that you can do it and how you can do it, even if you already have a layer of embossing glaze on it. So it is possible to change the color. And the other thing is, I thought if I would use this flower, for example, here, next to this project that I've already created here, then it would look cohesive and you could see like the connection between this and this. But first of all, I don't have a page here. And second of all, I want to work here. And now when I put this here, the flower is not in connection to the other page anymore. And yeah, I want to have something that is really outstanding, something that is, you know, popping out. And I don't like when I have these colors here, no connection to this, but I flip the page and then there's the same color palette. I find that weird. So let's change the color of this flower. You have different possibilities to do that, of course. I like to do it really simple. I'm going to take this Distress Embossing Dabber. So this is Distress Embossing ink. And I want to first put that to only 1/2, let's say, of the top of the flower here. And I'm doing that for several different reasons. And I will put it here to the right side of the leaves as well. I'm doing that for several different reasons. On the first hand, I want to show you what happens if you add more embossing glaze only to a portion of a die cut, for example, or a portion of a page or so. and the rest is still here. And on the other hand, I want to show you what happens if you have more layers than only one of the glaze. Hopefully that will make sense in a second. So let's take this, and then let's take our little paper here, and I want to go with peacock feathers. I know we already have peacock feathers here, but this will look great in the end. So let's cover this. Where are my tweezers? Take this out from here. And then you can see, of course, the glaze is sticking only to the right side of this image now. And here on the left, we have the original color that we had before. And I'm a little bit confused because here is something. What is that? I don't know. So now let's emboss this. So now you can see the peacock feathers color that was here in the middle is now way more intense on the right side than on the left. And here on the top, we got a mixture, and that was crushed olive. And we get now a mixture here out of crushed olive and peacock feathers. So that is a really cool feature of embossing glaze in my eyes, that it is translucent and that you can see, you know, what is below, and that you also can get really cool mixtures out of the different colors. That looks really, really cool. And another cool thing is, the more layers you get, the more intense, of course, the color gets. And then you can also, with that, get really cool variations of the colors in your design. So now I'm going to heat this up again completely so that I remelt this powder so that it gets a little bit sticky again. And then I will add another layer of peacock feathers. And that means that I get a third layer here on the right and a second layer there on the left. Yeah, so that we get variations of the color in the end. So hopefully that makes sense. I really enjoy that because that gives this flower a whole new dimension and really much depth. And you can still see the stamped image below, yeah? Please remember that. The glaze is translucent so that everything that you have done underneath, you can see. We had taken a watercolor paper, stamped to that with the Floral Trims stamp, and everything is still visible, and that makes this really, really interesting and especially artsy in my eyes, especially with this, you know, you can't see really what we have stamped because it's only a portion of the stamp, but that looks just great. I think this is the color that I want to have, so we can go on with the next step. And that is deciding for a color for the background. I want to use some texture paste in a second, and I want to show you that you can add the glaze to texture paste as well and create a really cool effect. But for that, I have to think about the colors. I know that this page is photo paper, and oxide ink and also distress ink would react really weird on this for what I have in mind, yeah? It can be really cool, but for what I have in mind, I want to do this a little bit differently. So I think I want to go with some distress paint in this case. And I want to have a yellowish, brownish background, abstract, artsy. So let's see. I have wild honey, fossilized amber, and gathered twigs. I know that's a weird combination. Let's see. I want to take a brayer and then I want to put something, I want to make something that is really abstract and that is like yellow but brown at the same time. I don't want to mix these colors too much, but the background shall become a background, yeah? I want to have something that is colorful but backgroundish. Do you also have problems with doing those things? I always have, yeah, you know, I can't imagine that so well, but I mean, how that will come out, but we will see. So let's just do this relatively randomly, and you can already see how weird the photo paper reacts. Yeah, it soaks up the paint so fast. That's on the one hand really good, and it leaves a nice effect. I really enjoy this, but you have not so much playing time because this is just drying within seconds. So this is completely dry now. Next, I want to add some Distress Texture Paste Matte through this stencil by Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous. The number is THS 166. And as you can see, this stencil will cover up a lot of the background, but that is exactly the plan, yeah? I want to have this yellowish, brownish color like BAM, but not in the foreground, but in the background, yeah? And that's the plan. So I'm going to take this, and before I add the texture paste, I'm going to decide which color of glaze I want to use, because I want to add the glaze to the wet paste, and you have to do that, otherwise it wouldn't stick. And then we will let everything dry and then emboss it. Yeah, so it's good to know which color you want to use before you actually do anything here. And I think I want to go with pumice stone for a little bit more neutral look. And what else shall we use? Either bundled sage or perhaps crushed olive, but I don't know if I'm brave enough for crushed olive. But shall we try that? Oh my goodness, let's try it. Perhaps we can also use all three and use a little bit, you know, not so much of crushed olive and a little bit more of bundled sage. I think that's that's good. Okay, so let's put this out of the way. And I'm trying to get that a little bit like irregular. You will see later on why. That's the reason why I'm like doing this a little bit crisscross. Is that a word? I think so. So when we have that, we can remove this. I will just throw that into some water so that the paste can't dry and I can clean it later. And now this looks really regular. I want to leave this hard edge there. And here, this looks also a bit weird. And you can also use here a kitchen paper towel to get more texture to the paste, just by, you know, touching it a little bit, like so. And then this looks not so regular anymore. And now we can apply the embossing glaze. So let's start with pumice stone on the bottom of the page. Now I'm just throwing this on here, just like this. Yep. And because of what I just did with the kitchen towel, there's a little bit of texture paste that went to my background, of course, because I've smeared it. Then it's sticky here. That makes the glaze stick here as well, and I'm hoping that it will not fly away later when I want to emboss it. Yeah, so I mean heat it up, because that could give us a really nice addition to the background, and it could make that the stenciled pattern is like flowing into the background a little bit more. I don't know if that will work, because sometimes when it's not sticky enough and not enough grip, is that also a word in English, then it can happen that it flies away, but we will see. Perhaps that works. So I will now go on with the other colors that we've just chosen. And I'm really not sure about this crushed olive plan, but let's see. Let's perhaps add a little bit of that here. I'm surprised. Okay, so let's get rid of the rest here. That's not so bad. I'm really excited how this will come out. Can you see this little bit of crushed olive there? Okay, so let's see. That's perhaps not so bad. Then, last but not least, let's take the bundled sage and put that to the rest of the paste there. And now you can go and clean your house if your house is small enough, because this has to air dry now. Yeah, please have that in mind. Don't emboss this with your heat tool right now. Just let it air dry. And when the paste is completely dry, we can just take our heat tool and go over that to melt the glaze. So now I'm going to turn on my heat tool, and I'm going to emboss the glaze on the paste here, and then we will have something really, really cool, I think. Haha, look at that. That looks so interesting. I especially like these areas where the texture paste is not so flattened. That was the reason why I went a little bit like crisscross crazy with my spatula over the paste. And here you can also see the areas that I created with the paper towel really well. That gives a really interesting texture. And I also like this irregular look here. There, for example, I have no texture paste, or also here where this is like broken. That looks really interesting. But if you know me, you know that I want to like grunge this up a little bit more. I want to make this look like old tiles, and I'm going to use some Gather Twigs Distress Crayon. We had the Gather Twigs paint here in the background, so I think this is a good match. And I'm just going to scribble this over this area. Don't panic. That looks a lot. But when I smear this around now, I can just blend that into the background and make this really grungy. This is relatively hard for me to explain in English, but I will try it. So you have seen that we have a lot of texture on those single pieces here, and because of that the crayon is going into these little areas here, and it stays there, and there where the paste and especially the embossing glaze is really flat, You can get rid of that just by going over this, and then it's like clean again. And that gives a really, really cool effect. Look. This looks just amazing and so grungy. I really, really love it. Here on the bottom, it's a little bit too dark in my eyes. That looks a little bit like... Don't say it, Louise. Don't say it. Just go over it here with this towel. And you can also take a tiny little bit of water to bring that around easier, or even remove some of that, because we have the distress paint underneath. It's really easy to get rid of the crayon, which is probably here a little bit too much. Just like this. And I'm just thinking, this shape, yeah, that looks like a really weird egg. And I don't like that yet, but I have an idea how we can make this even more interesting and blend this pattern a little bit better into the background. For that, I'm going to need my stencil again, and then let's take a bit of the crayon, smear that here to the mat, take our warm finger and just smear that here through the stencil. You could alternatively also use a brush, a blending brush. That would probably be even easier, Louise. Let's see if I can reach one without lifting the stencil. That's way easier. Look. Oh. That is really, really great. I think we can also add even a little bit more of the crayon here to make a similar effect that we already have here. Perhaps we can go into this area with the crushed olive a little bit. Okay, this still looks a little bit weird. And I want to bring in some more like shadowish things. I want to take this is the Stabilo All pen, a water-soluble black pen, and it's really, 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 really black. I will first make, you can't see that, let me spritz a little bit more here. I will first make this a little bit wet, like so, and then let's decide where to add some black. And I want to do this really, like, you know, what's the opposite of realistic? Irrealistic? Non-realistic? You know. I want to let the eye think that this is something like a real shape where light comes from here and it makes shadow there, but I want to have the shadows really, really strange so that I can use the shadow as the black accent here, yeah, but not as a shadow itself, even if it is one. I don't know if that makes sense. Where's my brush? I'm going to take a brush to bring this around a little bit, and I think I need more water. I don't want to destroy my stenciled pattern here, so I'm paying attention to that, so that I do that really carefully and blend this. And you could also, of course, take some paint, for example, or also here this liquid from the pen, and let that run through the pattern, and the glaze is then like a resist, of course. You can already see that here it's like little puddles on the glaze, and then you could just use this effect, or this fact that it is a resist. That's what I'm trying to say. And you can easily get rid of the black here on the pattern just by taking something like this and remove it. I'm not so happy with this. I will quickly show you the page from the German video. Can I do that without ruining this? It's not dry yet. Look, this is what I got in the German video. And do you know what the difference is here? That is so simple, and you can see it on the first glance. This pattern is way more delicate. It's way more, you know, it's smaller. It fits better to the flower size-wise. This is, yeah, more filigree. But this is really big. And I think, where's my flower? If I now take the flower and put that there, it feels weird. And the background is also way darker than the flower. The contrast, no, I'm so sorry. This background is way darker than this background. Here the contrast is way bigger. Can you see that? And here, that is not the fact. So that means we have to somehow lighten up the background, and we also have to do something that the background gets more tinier details and not those big shapes. I wanted to try a different stencil for this so that you can see variations, yeah, so that you have this, what I have just shown you in the German video, and this for the English video. That was my goal, to have variations, but I'm not happy with this. This looks weird. So I don't want to make the flower darker, but I want to try to lighten up the background. How can we do that? First of all, I will dry everything that I have here, which is wet. And then I'm going to take a white crayon, this one, Distress Crayon Picket Fence, and I'm trying to lighten up these areas here by smearing that over the glazed areas. Well, nice, but not enough, I guess. Yeah, it's better, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. Okay, what can we do? We could perhaps try to change the color of the flower, but I don't want that. I love this flower so much. But what we could try is, I mean, this pattern is relatively massive compared to the flower. What we could try is to perhaps put something like a calm scrap behind the flower. That was originally not, what is this? Not my plan, but let's see. That is probably not the end of the day. It's really big, I know. It covers up a lot of the stenciled pattern, I know. But can you see the idea behind it? If this was a tiny bit thinner, that would perhaps be good. Let's see, what else do I have here? This brown is probably way too matchy, even if this looks really great. What about something really light, like this, for example? I mean, that is too small, but yeah. And do you know what? First of all, let's see how much we have. And then, who says that this piece of paper has to be the same size like the flower is? How can I try out if I like that? If this is just either like this, but I think it would be good if the head of the flower was, you know, this looks better when it's completely on the paper than if it's peeking out. And I'm just thinking, if I want to do it like this and perhaps put the paper like a tiny little bit wonky or so, just like this. Oh my goodness, I have never done something like this before, but somehow I like that. That is somehow really interesting. The only thing that I don't like is this straight edge, but that should be not the problem. And what if we additionally, instead of distressing that, put a darker paper behind, so that that gets also something like a frame. And I'm also doing that because this paper is really flimsy, and I guess I will have really big problems to glue that down. So if I would use it only like it is, and perhaps we can just mount that to this really sturdy, I think this craft stock. Okay, so then let's add some white splatters. But it still looks relatively plain here on the paper. I mean, I like that, but just thinking if I shall add perhaps some darker green splatters as well. But which color? Lucky Clover, perhaps. This looks really much like Lucky Clover. Let's see if that could be a possibility. It's perhaps a bit lighter than here, but that doesn't matter. It's like the color that we got here from the mixture of the glaze. That is really nice, I think, in combination with the crushed olive and here the wild honey and the fossilized amber in the background. Ooh, I think I want to have even a little bit more of that here, just like that. Yes. Ooh, oh. I like that. That is cool. Let's do it here as well. Yeah. Okay, and a third one here. I know that's not everyone's taste, having so much splatters, but I like that. I really, really like that, and I think it's also part of my style somehow to have a lot of splatters. Ah, that's wonderful. Okay, I enjoy having this here. So, but I also want to have a quote somewhere on this page. I've found the perfect quote for this page. It comes from this small talk pad by Tim Holtz, Ideology. And now I've lost it. Oh no, where is it? I just wanted to show you the front and now I've lost it. Here. It's the little things that make life big. this quote matches really well to this, because, you know, the background was relatively, I would say, time consuming, but only because of the drying time of the medium. And the rest is totally simple, and there are little things like those splatters, also the washi or design tape, which goes here from this page to that page. This is also part of the page for me, even if I haven't made it today. Yeah, it was there before. But also those tiny little areas that we've smeared with the crayon, that are tiny things for me as well, which make this whole page work and interesting. And also, or especially, I would say, the layers in the middle here are the little things for me on this page, because these are just 2 pieces of paper, and this flower is also relatively like little, because we had left it over from the last project, and it was laying around here, you know, on my big desk. There was this little flower. I'm trying to bring to you what's in my head, yeah, and that's why this fits really well to this page. And of course, it's also a thing that fits to my life. It also fits to the style of my life, I would say, and that's really good. I like it. Okay, so that's the page for today. This still has to dry a little bit, but it will not change a lot. So I hope you like this. Leave a comment if you want. And if you have any questions, of course, you can just ask me in the comments. I will do my best to answer your questions as soon as possible, as always. And I'm hoping that you have a lot of fun with your own projects, no matter if it's trying things with this distress glaze, oh, I can't speak anymore, or anything else. Have fun, and always remember, it's the little things that make life big. See you the next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.